to have you here at our weekly shows on key issues, key news, key ideas in the recruitment technology industry. Mergers and acquisitions have long been a staple in that industry. There's certainly nothing new there, but it seems as if acquisitions have accelerated a bit. Of course, we all heard about Workday's acquisition of Paradox, heard about SAP SuccessFactors' acquisition of Smart Recruiters, Shaker Recruitment Advertising's acquisition of JobAdX. And each of those deals, of course, is unique unto itself, idiosyncratic to the particular companies involved. But I think all of them are a signal about what's going on in our space. So I'm very pleased to have join me today for TAtech Live, Tom Chevalier, the founder of Tink AI, and Ben Groves, the founder of ApplyCall. We're going to talk about their deal, which recently happened. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
So let's begin with introductions. Tom, tell us a little bit about Tink AI.
Yeah, happy to. And maybe just before talking about Tink, a little bit on my background, because I've been finding that the experiences that you have are what lead you to the next area of opportunity or the next problem that you're interested in. And for better or worse, what I've chosen in my profession is recruitment marketing. I've been doing this for about 20 years now, and I, in particular, like helping companies find talent that they don't know yet. So I started building skills to do that at Monster. At Appcast, I led product for about 11 years, and I was really proud of the work that we did in using data and software to help an employer more easily access the job board channel. And so that was sort of like one of the foundational sort of things that I've learned how to do is how to help an employer connect with an audience through a vast network of potential outlets. And Appcast progressed as the years went on, and in the acquisition of Bayard, that represented an opportunity for Appcast to help an employer reach beyond the job board channel. So that was like, could we reach into social avenues or social channels to reach candidates, or reach into search engine marketing channels to access candidates? And that sort of channel-based thinking is really the origin point for Tink. As I realized that I myself and many of us are now starting to spend more time asking questions in a conversational AI chat environment or getting work done there with some of the tools that are evolving. The area of opportunity for Tink that we're most excited about is there a way to turn these agentic conversations into a sourcing channel? And everything that we're working on, that Ben and I are thinking about, has to do with that. And we just believe that the sort of the approach of connecting a person who's hiring with a person who might be looking for work in one of those chat environments is probably going to need some new technology, some new approaches, different ways of thinking about it. And that's what Tink is here to do, is sort of think about how to make those connections without brute forcing like the technology that has historically existed into a new channel that might operate in a different way.
So a little bit more. How does that channel operate in a different way? I mean, where does the artificial intelligence play? Well, first, let me ask you, where's the name come from? Because I know that, but our audience may not. So share the origins, if you will, of Tink, and then where artificial intelligence plays a role.
All right. So the naming rights for Tink go to my daughter. She's 12. And what I was talking with her about is I knew that at some point in our journey, we were going to want to have a conversational agent that would help a job seeker progress in the candidate application process. And there we would want to have an agent that person could speak with. And we decided that we would want that personality to be a female, and also a bit sort of like magical, because people who are thinking about work, it's nerve-wracking. It's a really sort of it's a challenging part of their careers, is finding the next job. And so Tink comes from Tinkerbell, a reference to sort of the personality that we are hoping that we can bring to light in this environment. So Tink is Tinkerbell. And what we're talking about is right now, ChatGPT being one of those sort of chat outlets, or Gemini, they haven't built in sort of full-featured partnership capabilities yet to help any kind of advertiser really reach out. There's some emerging things happening, but it's very nascent. And so where Tink started was to think about the verticalized conversational agents that were already out there. So they might call themselves a job co-pilot or a job concierge. It may even be a job board that's introducing conversational experiences within the workflow. Those represent the types of partners that Tink would be looking for to help an employer reach into those conversations. Without sort of a technology interface, you wouldn't be able to connect to candidates there. And so that's one of the ways that Tink will help employers reach candidates, is through partnership. It's the model that the programmatic recruiting ad agencies like Appcast and Recruitix, Jovio have used to help an employer reach into the job board channel. We're sort of taking that metaphor and now adapting it for these new types of businesses that have conversations. And in those conversations, there's such an opportunity. Instead of the sort of the limitations of a job site where you would say, what job do you want and where do you want it? In a conversation, you can be saying, well, this is what I've done. This is what I like doing. This is what I don't like about my current job. And this is what I want in my next role. And there's so much rich information there that may not have been present in a sort of a form-based interface in prior environments. And so there's such an opportunity for an employer then to maybe reach a candidate who is already pre-qualified because of the questions that they've asked or the information that they've provided. So our job is to partner so the employer can get access into those opportunities, a conversation where somebody is expressing what they want and getting as an employer, getting your job to show right at the moment where that person is expressing what they want. And that's a different type of connection than you would have had like advertising a job or even searching a resume database. So that's one of the ways. And then the second way, we are bringing Tink to life. So you're going to find through today's conversation that I refer to Tink as a she, and she is also now starting to do her own outreach into various different candidate databases, resume databases, to develop her own relationships with candidates the way that a recruiter would have historically done that. And so we will have two forms of sort of candidate access. One is through partnership with sites that offer these kinds of conversations. And then the second will be where Tink, our own agent, reaches out to candidates and starts to develop that engagement, that relationship through her own conversations.
So she becomes something of an executive recruiter in that latter aspect of her
That's
role.
the metaphor we're going for, and a lot of the way that we're designing the experience, the product, and Ben's going to share some more on that too.
Yeah, I was going to say that
the way that a recruiter works.
Yeah, so in terms of an executive recruiter, but also the colleague that sits next door to you in your team. So you might be able to vent at them about candidates that are coming through, how they're not right, but they don't just sit there and take it. They then learn from it and improve the search that's coming off the back of it. They have that memory that persists there as well, and then just continues to improve. So it's the colleague that you always want us to work with, that's available 24/7 and gets to know you and delivers what you need. I mean, I entered into this market a year and a half ago after working with job boards for 16 years, because I thought that voice was going to be the thing that stops AI applications going through. And what I have learnt, and the reason why I've joined up with Tom, is that the solution that we can deliver is just so much bigger than that. It's so much more about talking to people in the way that they want to talk to, be it like if they want to type, if they want to talk, if they want to fill up forms or email, if they want to go away, leave something for 6 months and come back again. Like, it's about meeting the person in the way that they want to communicate and then using that data in the most efficient way.
So let's go back for just a second, though, if you would, please, and tell us the backstory of ApplyCall. When did you set that up? And where was it operating, or where has it been operating?
So ApplyCall was a suite of different solutions which kind of evolved over time for about the past. Yeah, it's just coming up for the year since ApplyCall, the original, went live. Initially, it was just like an add-on to the job board industry. So I spent 16 years working with different job boards. I could see huge volumes going through of applications. The age-old problem of people dropping off on ATS forms and the wrong applications going through the ATS forms. And I thought there must be a better way. Use voice to solve this. Prove the candidate is real. Give them a chance to talk about why the job's relevant for them, and show a much higher level of intent. So ApplyCall existed because it was cost per apply moving to cost per apply call. That was the thinking behind it. And then there were 2 or 3 iterations which came off the back of that, all which used voice as an AI air gap to stop auto applies going through. Fortunately, chatting with Tom, I think it was off of maybe one of the podcasts you hosted, Peter, or something around there. We kind of connected with each other again after bouncing off each other over the years, and he dug into what I was doing, told me about what Tink, what she was becoming, and it became clear that voice could sit alongside what was already being built with Tink and deliver a much more fuller solution.
I'm very jealous that you were able to spend 16 years in the job board space. I spent a few more years, and look at my haircut compared to yours. It doesn't seem fair. It sounds to me as if what ultimately is the outcome is a humanizing of the job search process. The job seekers forever have been saying it feels cold, it feels unresponsive, it feels transactional, and through voice and the agentic solution that you have, you're able to give people a more human kind of experience. Is that right?
Yeah, completely. One of the use cases, like on the job seeker side, if they prefer to sit there and type in a keyword location search on the job sites, then fantastic. We'll work with that, and they can scroll through in their own time. But it might be that they want to sit there and say, that job there looks perfect for me. Can you find more jobs like that, please? Or I don't like that job because X, Y, and Z, and build out that profile. I think we've seen in terms of this conversation that's gone on, you get a much richer level of information when people start talking than when you ask them to fill out a basic form. It's simpler as well for the user. It's easier to pass information via voice. But Tink isn't just about voice. I've been brought in to bring the voice element to it, but Tink is designed to meet the candidates and the employer on whatever platform suits them best, and then utilize the benefits you get from those platforms. So
Gotcha.
if it's chat, if it's text, if it's email, if it's voice, each one of them has benefits there.
You touched on this just a second ago, but tell me a little bit more about how the deal came together. You apparently knew each other from the past, so was there some sort of an intermediary involved, or just how did it all come together?
So I actually do think it was one of your webinars, Peter, that Ben and I started LinkedIn messaging one another about something that was said, and I think it had to do with voice AI, and so we started talking about that. And Ben then shared with me one of the ways that he was getting ready to activate employers on one of the solutions that he calls TA Team, and it's wicked creative. It's not something that anybody inside the recruitment industry has seen before for customer acquisition. We're not ready to take the lid off of it yet to explain how that would work, but it was wicked creative, and it draws on something that I personally love, which is an adaptation of something that works in another industry. I've found for recruitment that one of the best ways to find products that can work is to look at something that happens outside of our industry. So what do consumer marketers do? What does e-commerce do? And usually they're ahead in thinking and execution of the HR industry. And so he has a sort of a customer acquisition plan that draws from things that are happening in B2B outbound sales right now. And we sort of just hit it off. And that led to me sort of really getting to know Ben on a more personal level. And the origin of us coming together is we started to really enjoy spending time talking about this industry, talking about opportunities together. And so the cohesion of the team was immediately, a thing. And then as that just naturally led to us talking about Tink, wanting to have voice interaction points where we can achieve various different objectives, we said, look, this is starting to be kind of silly. Why are we doing this apart? Let's see if we can do this together. And that fortunately did come together. And so it was just it's sort of like an organic conversation that built up. And then we said, we're looking at the world the same way. It's like, we really need to put our heads together here.
So will the two organizations continue to operate as two separate brands? Will it be one brand under a general umbrella? How are you going to go to market?
Yeah, for the most part, Tink will be the lead. So she's the personality that embodies this business now, the combined entities. And there will be places where we may want to introduce software and technology directly to employers outside of sort of like the core Tink relationship that's being established between a recruiter and a candidate. And so we will likely use some of the ApplyCall branding there. But generally speaking, the voice AI capabilities now sort of are embodied through Tink is our plan.
Gotcha. So you talked about a product that you have in development, but obviously you already have a portfolio of capabilities. How are you going to market? Are you you mentioned partnerships. Will you also be doing direct sales?
Yep. So on the candidate side, we've kind of shared our thinking. There will be partnerships that support distribution into environments where a conversational work conversation is happening, and there's some technology that we've built to support that. So if you're curious about that, you can let Ben or I know, and we can share sort of how we enable that. With the Tink agent, when she's doing her own outreach, that will be also in partnership, but in a different shape, where what we're wanting to do is partner with companies that have candidate databases, resume databases, so that Tink can go do her own prospecting to candidates there. And so there's another partnership opportunity. If you've got access to an audience and would like Tink to be able to reach in, please let us know about that as well. And then on the employer side, just sort of very pragmatically, starting our sales approach with large employers is something that it's from my background in Appcast and at Monster. I got familiar with working with big companies. So we're sort of as a business, our DNA naturally tends to lead to like enterprise sales and enterprise process there. And so we're doing it the old fashioned way, direct sales. And actually Mike Odell, who is also an industry veteran, has been helping us out to build some pipeline on that side. And we will be experimenting with some of these new things, including what Ben has come up with to automate that process, where I guess without giving too much away, Tink will also start to do some prospecting and outbound research and outbound contacting on the B2B end of things. So it'll sort of test out whether this can be done in a more human-like way. If you, as a recruiter or a hiring manager, you'd like to develop a relationship with Tink and like to have Tink support on open roles, that'll become a tool that is available to you. Sort of, again, just taking how does executive search, has it historically worked? It's been relationship building on both sides and then connecting people in the middle. Tink really wants to do that. And so she'll be trying to figure out ways of connecting people in the middle.
The irony is that I used to be a partner in a company that had an executive search arm. And one of their competitive advantages was their database built up over the years of business leaders that they would begin every search by searching that database. And I'm sure you've seen the countless posts on social media and articles about how employers are not taking advantage of their own internal resume databases. And it sounds like your solution is a perfect way to capitalize on that asset.
And it may be. So I'm super passionate about helping employers find candidates that they don't know yet. So a lot of our go-to-market will be focused there on, and when I say candidates that the employer doesn't know yet, I'm referring to sort of like sourcing because those candidates aren't in the database yet. Um, but Tink is using databases to do this proactive outreach and to develop the relationships and understanding of what people are looking for. So you could see a very simple progression of that thinking to say, okay, let's do that in an employer's database. And when that happens, then time will tell whether Tink should be doing that or whether that's sort of like a proprietary system that the employer deploys. And Ben has some strong thinking on that, and that's sort of an example of where the ApplyCall brand and sort of portfolio of products can take shape. But that is, I guess, we're probably a little bit earlier than that. Right now, we're ready to help employers who need outside candidates. And if somebody wanted to pilot us helping them find candidates and engage those that they already know, we'd be totally game to do that. It's just not a product that is available today from us.
Gotcha. So Ben, you mentioned earlier that you and Tom started to have these conversations. You were fellow travelers in your view of how technology can help candidates and employers. What in your view is going to be the upside for ApplyCall in this acquisition?
Well, I mean, the upside is I go from a solo developer, builder, salesperson, administrator to well, I mean, there are plenty of people who watch this who've been in that position, and it's a hard slog. But the thing I am humble enough to realise is that there are gaps in my knowledge. Like even though what ApplyCall was and the products that were built alongside it could deliver were good, they were add-ons to an existing system. They were designed to not get in the way of like people's pathways, because by myself I don't have the strength to batter down the doors and change how recruiting works. But by bringing ApplyCall in with Tink, it gives us the opportunity to do something like far greater, and for me to retain some of my sanity and possibly some of my hair at the end of it as well. So let's see where we get to.
That sounds great. So what I know, obviously, some of the things that we're talking about skirt the edges of proprietary or confidential information. But what's in your view the game plan for the Tink ApplyCall combination over the next 12 months? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do?
So we're going to make connections that lead to hires. That is the product, and all of the rest of the dressing and trimmings and channels are sort of peripheral to that. So right now, what we're most aggressively doing is testing our ability to make qualified introductions to employers of candidates that are both qualified and interested. And I saw that there was maybe a question in the message thread around whether Tink pushes back on candidates or pushes back on employers, and the answer is yes. And so historically, when any technical system has been trying to make a match between the employer and the candidate, they'd use like what's available information. And so you take the job description and you'd compare that with the resume, and you would say, okay, there's some alignment here. And a point of view that Ben and I are taking is that process has like largely broken down, where people still are not putting all of their thoughts and not even telling the total truth in the job description about what they're looking for. They often have to sort of masquerade a little bit around being top of funnel, ready to pull people in. But then once the person comes in, they say the real details about what they're looking for. And on the resume side, so many resumes now are being tailored, altered, adapted by AI to look like the job. You end up in a place where it's very difficult to tell the difference between one candidate and their background, another candidate and their background, and the fit to the job, where that job description itself might be wrong. So we are We're not trying to do it that way. We're trying to be much more human about this by asking the people on the employer side who have a stake in the job, whether that's the recruiter or the hiring manager, to verbally articulate what it is that they're looking for. And we share with them some examples of the type of candidates based on what Tink's heard that she would go out and prospect to. And then the employer can say, like, oh, yeah, you're on track or you're not on track. This is a perfect place for voice, by the way, because that type of feedback is very difficult to communicate in a Slack message or
drop down forms. I don't like this candidate because they are too far away from me. And it's like, well, they're not too far away. I just know that bus route always snarls up on a Monday morning. So, like, as long as they've got their own driving license, that's fine. But if they're using public transport, I can't hire them. That's the sort of thing you can do with a voice that you just can't do.
100%. Yep. And then on the candidate side, candidates really have been hitting black holes and dead ends because nothing has been in a position to tell them, like, you're just really not a good fit for what this customer or this employer is looking for. Tink is going to do that and try to do that in a positive way where she can also provide alternatives and sort of forward thinking. If we were talking about a 12-month plan, being able to provide learning opportunities and ancillary services to help a person who is in a position. So for example, like 6 months ago, I would say I was not as savvy on AI as I needed to be. I've taken so many classes and done so much learning over these past 6 months to try to become as sort of forward thinking as is possible. That would be a great recommendation for a lot of people that are looking for work, especially desk work right now. And so that's the type of thing that we do have ambition to provide, as not just a dead end, try to provide alternatives. And sometimes those alternatives will also be to learn more and to do additional projects so that you can prove you have the capabilities that an employer is looking for. But that comes back to everything that we're working on right now is employer, what are you looking for in your candidates? I think we'll go reach out to candidates and try to find those that are interested and have those characteristics, and then making the introductions. We want to try to do that at on a relatively narrow scale. And so our initial focus is in the healthcare segment in particular, and sort of some of the skilled roles around nursing, dental practices, nurse practitioners, and being able to just show that it works there in a place where there is such an imbalance between the amount of demand there is for candidates and those people who can do them. We thought that would be a really great sort of proving ground. And once we prove that, there's actually, it's not a technology limitation to be able to expand into additional segments. So that's not, like, technology has progressed so fast that it's not necessarily about teaching Tink the healthcare profession. She knows the healthcare profession already, and she knows the driving professions, she knows the electrical professions, she knows engineering professions. It's actually a business problem of getting the right balance of sort of employers who are looking for candidates with then finding candidates for those jobs. And we can only do so much with I don't know, for four hands now, or the teams that are helping us. But we need to prove that, and then once we do, we will be really trying to accelerate things.
Of course, that's also one of the hottest, if not the hottest, segments of the job market right now. So healthcare makes a lot of sense. In fact, we have under development here at TAtech a leadership summit on healthcare recruiting for that very reason, which we hopefully will launch in 2027. So we're coming to the end of our time together. Before I let you go, what would be the final message you'd like to leave with our audience about Tink AI and ApplyCall? And please, at the end of that, make sure you let people know how they can get in touch with you.
All right. I'll leave with one. So I know in the TAtech network, there are a lot of solution providers to the industry. And in particular, if you've got candidate users, whether it's a resume database or any other form of access to candidates, we're building direct partnerships and would like to be your customer. And so if you have that, please be in touch with one of us, and we'd like to help you to monetize what we believe is an underutilized, under-accessed asset, and help you to do that it's maybe going to one of the other follow-up questions that was in the thread earlier, is we don't know that like the publicly available data sources that are kind of aggregating information from LinkedIn, whether that's a long-term viable strategy for any employer or HR provider. That's something that LinkedIn is probably going to want to control for themselves here in the not too distant future. And so we're not taking that approach to developing access to candidates. We're trying to go in and develop proprietary access.
Okay. Ben, any final thoughts?
Just that the next 12 months is going to be one hell of a ride. We're both looking forward to what we can deliver. We both believe in the industry. We've been in it for a long time. We know the problems people face. The technology's out there. Other people are working on it, but we understand this from the inside out. And yeah, please talk to us. Like if there's something that you can see that needs fixing, when you start using Tink, if there's improvements you can make, please talk to us. We're a friendly bunch. We know some stuff. There's some stuff we don't know, but yeah, it's going to be exciting to deliver it for the industry. So yeah, Ben at gettink.ai, Tom at gettink.ai, LinkedIn, however you want. Pick up the phone. Always happy to talk.
Great. Well, thank you, guys. I really appreciate your coming on TAtech Live today, for your candor and willingness to tell us a little bit about how the deal got done, what hopes you have for the combined companies. It sounds like you have a great future. And to all of you out there, thank you very much for joining us for this edition of TAtech Live. Our next show will be on June 9th, where we will have Georgios Markakis, the managing partner at Venero Capital Advisors, talking about the state of M&A in the recruitment technology industry. And that's a precursor to the keynote he will be delivering at TAtech Europe, which is coming up in Amsterdam on September 8th and 9th. So we hope you'll join us for both the TAtech Live show and also in Amsterdam for that conference. Thanks again, and we'll see you at our next episode of TAtech Live.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, guys.